Did you know there is a prediction method that can tell you with 94% accuracy exactly whether a marriage is destined to crumble into dust or stand the test of time? It sounds like the plot of a supernatural movie, but it is actually rigorous, scientific measurement. We are talking about the groundbreaking, decades-long research of Dr. John Gottman, often affectionately referred to as the love doctor of psychology. He spent his life settling in on couples inside his famous love lab, where he watched, recorded, and analyzed their interactions to a terrifying degree of precision. He realized that in the heat of an intimate relationship, words are often the mouthpieces of our defenses, things we say to be polite, to win an argument, or to maintain peace, while our bodies are broadcasting the raw, unfiltered truth. When we focus only on the narrative someone is telling us, we completely miss the most critical data points. Gottman discovered that it is not the thunderous shouting matches that eventually destroy a bond, but the microscopic emissions of contempt expressed through body language. It is that tired eye roll that looks like a casual gesture, but actually feels like a punch in the gut, the way a partner physically pulls away the moment a touch is offered, or the flat, monotone voice that carries a volume of rejection that no volume control can fix. These silent betrayals build a thick, suffocating fog of neglect, and no amount of apologetic texts or romantic poetry can truly penetrate it. This isn't about becoming a robotic interrogator, but rather tuning into the electromagnetic frequency of genuine intimacy. So if the bulk of communication happens beyond the conscious ear, how do we learn to read the room instead of just listening to the people in it? Everyone fears that sinking feeling of a relationship slowly crumbling. But did you know science can actually predict when the roof will cave in? For over 40 years, the legendary relationship researcher Dr. John Gottman watched thousands of couples argue in his famous love lab, and he uncovered a set of toxic communication patterns that act like a biological virus, attacking the very foundation of any partnership. He famously coined these deadly behaviors as the four horsemen of the apocalypse, drawing a chilling parallel to biblical legends who signaled the end, because in a relationship, these habits surely signal its demise. These aren't just normal spats, they are unmistakable moves that guarantee long-term trouble. First comes criticism, which often disguises itself as complaining but actually attacks your partner's character, like hurling insults about their lazy personality rather than discussing a specific dirty dish. But things escalate rapidly to contempt, the most combustible of the four. Eye-rolling, sarcasm, and contemptuous laughter signal total superiority and disgust. Gottman proved this is the single biggest predictor of a breakup because it represents a fundamental lack. Even worse is the silent threat of stonewalling, where one partner emotionally checks out to escape the pressure, leaving the other alone in a storm. Once these riders are galloping across the dinner table, emotional safety is gone. To save your bond, you have to learn how to spot these four terrifying forces and learn how to banish them for good. We often assume the loudest, most vicious fights are the ones that eventually kill a relationship. But psychology has a much darker surprise. The absolute #1 predictor of a split isn't anger, not contemptuous silence, but actually contempt. And the scariest part? It shows up in the smallest, most unassuming moments that you probably don't even realize are happening. Consider a scenario where your partner leaves the dishes in the sink. Instead of an argument about cleanliness, you manage a soft sigh and a slow, exaggerated eye roll. The world doesn't stop, but silently that single gesture says every word in a sentence you never actually speak. "You're beneath me," or "I'm too good for this." This isn't just annoying. It is a biological weapon of destruction. Dr. John Gottman, the nation's leading relationship scientist, found that once contempt enters the dynamic, the marriage is significantly more likely to end in divorce than even severe hostility. It strips the relationship of its walls and replaces them with a deep sense of disgust. On a chemical level, contempt is devastating. It triggers a biological stress response called the fight or flight reaction, flooding your body with cortisol, the stress hormone. Over time, this chemical warfare doesn't just make you angry, it kills your libido and suppresses your immune system, effectively turning your home into a biological battleground against one another. When you use a look to dismantle your partner's character, you aren't just fighting a battle, You are systematically dismantling the foundation of attraction that built your life together. To save your marriage from this silent killer, you have to learn how to drop the weapon and pick up empathy before the chemistry shifts forever. You've likely heard the chilling statistic that contempt is the #1 predictor of divorce, but you probably don't grasp just how deadly it actually is. We're talking about an attitude that doesn't just drift away, it attacks the relationship biologically. This groundbreaking University of Washington study practically rewrote the rules of intimacy by watching couples react while discussing their differences, using specialized sensors to measure physiological shifts in real time. The results were visceral and undeniable. When one partner looked at the other with disgust, sarcasm, or superiority, their distress was so high that their palms began to sweat profusely during the conversation. This reaction proves that contempt is not just a bad mood in your head, it is a primitive biological alarm bell that your body perceives as a genuine threat. Consider your relationship like a suit of armor you wear for protection. Anger is simply a noisy alarm. And while it might be annoying, it doesn't actually penetrate the metal. Contempt, however, acts like acid slowly eating through the plate before you even see the chip. When you view your partner with disdain, you stop seeing a lover and start seeing an enemy, which floods your bloodstream with stress hormones that stop love from being felt, while physically damaging your DNA. You aren't just picking a fight, you are burning the very bridge you walk on every single day, and your body registers this destruction as danger, shutting down the oxytocin that makes you feel safe. Understanding this grim biological mechanism is the only way to stop it, but knowing the enemy is half the battle, so let's look at how to rebuild that chemical bridge. You come home from a long day exhausted, and the house is a disaster. Your partner is scrolling on their phone while you're doing the cooking. In the heat of the moment, the instinct is to vent. You might say, "I'm feeling really overwhelmed by all this clutter, and I need your help to tackle it." That's just complaining. It's like looking out the window at a rainy day. It's a weather report of your feelings, purely logistical, and that kind of venting, the sulking, is actually quite human and necessary. But in so many relationships, there is a dangerous switch that flips. We trade the weather forecast for a blunt force trauma. You don't just point out the sink is full, you accuse them of not caring about you. You whisper, "You are selfish, and you don't respect me at all." That's the critical shift, and this is what researchers call criticism. Unlike complaining, which targets a specific fixable behavior, criticism wields a double-edged sword that targets the partner's soul. It is quite frankly psychological warfare. When you attack the person instead of the problem, you are essentially defining them as the enemy. This is what I call weaponized guilt. You are using their small mistakes as a weapon to make them feel small, inadequate, and entirely to blame for your misery. It's the subtle art of convincing your spouse that the sun rises and sets based on how they handle the dishes. By the time you are finished unleashing this rope-a-dope of shame, instead of a messy kitchen, they are staring down the barrel of a moral verdict. And nobody wants to be convicted by the person they love. While a relationship can survive a mountain of dirty laundry, it cannot survive the slow erosion of self-esteem that comes from a daily barrage of character attacks. The solution isn't in the screaming, it's in the realization that you are picking the wrong weapon for the fight.